good morning for everyone that has joined us for our Dev Hour. Always, it's a pleasure to host people from different countries, but also to have very interesting guests. And today we have none other than Falabi Abisoye. Falabi is our product manager, has been a technology director, he's an educator, he's been a developer. He's a jack of all trades and a master of many. Many people like to think that you can be a jack of all trades and be a master of none, but I'd like to say it's the opposite for Falapi. And with me, I will be joined by Roger, who is my co-host, who we do this show with all the time. And it's a pleasure to have all of you join us. So, without wasting any other time, I will let Roger say something and let's kick this off. Thank you.
Next time, feel free to introduce me as the usual suspect. It's fine. I
The usual
accept that. So
suspect.
perfect. Cool. All right. Thanks for everyone who's joined. And my job is really simple. In case you really have any questions, because what you have to know, Mr. Falabi has a lot to say. So I'm sure we shall have very many questions. Feel free to leave them in our Q&A section down there, in case you can see it. And also, in case you have any follow-up questions, we have a dev channel. You can, in case you think about something later on, feel free to always ask the question even after the fact. We welcome this, and we shall reach out to Falabi to give us the answers. So before I say a lot, I would love to hand it over back to you, Viola, to kick it off.
Thank you, Roger. So, I mean, I already sort of preempted the conversation, but Falabi, now product manager, formerly developer, please just tell us about how you started in tech and progressively came into product management.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. How I got into tech, I used to love tinkering a lot. I was quite inquisitive and quite interested in a number of things. I think my first line of interest was in cars. Spent a number of times at the mechanic workshop and all of that. Before that interest also moved into um, networking, software, and things of that nature. I think from then it went on until I finally got myself working as a software developer in an enterprise environment. So yes, it has just been from one phase of area of interest to another. Curiosity, they say, kills the cat, but it doesn't kill this cat.
You make it seem like summer just slides on water, right? 1 minute, 1 minute they are into development, the next minute they're not in, they're in product management, which isn't the case. But like, what did you have to do? What drove you to even take that path in the beginning?
Yeah, so I think for me, what really made me think of with tech or Derva is because I noticed that with writing software or starting out from when I started writing, building websites, that it was something I could control. I could work on something and see the results as quickly as possible on my PC. I didn't need to wait for a long period of time before I could see the results. So that really sparked my interest in writing software. I think the other thing that really sparked my interest in product management was from my experience working in the enterprise. I worked in a consulting company where we built products for enterprise customers, banks, telecoms, and the likes. And there was a kind of, should I say, misalignment from other third-party companies that were working together on projects, together with what their developers understood, what needed to be built. So the guy who is getting the requirement, business analyst or thereabout, is telling the customer that we can do X and Y in 5 days and we can do it in a particular way, whereas you can actually achieve that in 5 weeks. 5 days, you definitely achieve that in 2 weeks or thereabout, and the process was going to change. So that really sparked my interest that you have a bunch of developers who are trying to kill themselves trying to deliver something that is almost like mission impossible, and which was lack of someone understanding the requirement appropriately. Yeah, and then
Interesting.
seeing a bunch of products that were not really used or thereabout. Yeah.
Cool. At some point, you use the word mission impossible. So me, it means that there are challenges you've been facing when you build, as you've been building products. Tell us about these mission impossible moments for you during your career.
Not more like
Uh,
Fast and Furious.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
yeah. So I think I'll pick from one which had to do with rolling out a product. So there was a time I was doing some bit of work for a company that was trying to roll out a product, first of all in Nigeria, and we had to do it in the space of, I think, was it? Yeah, we had to do it within the space of 2 weeks. Sorry, 21 days, if I recall correctly.
mm,
We had a bunch of things to do. We had to do market research. We had to do acquisition of users. It was a platform whereby it needed kind of users, those who are offering the service, those um, who are actually delivering the service. That is, it's actually a ride. It was an indigenous ride-hailing company, and it was quite a very stressful one because customer acquisition was quite interesting. In this case, you have the driver partners were also one of the customers, so you had to find a way of onboarding them despite the fact that you had two big, serious competition or thereabouts in the market. So finding how to attract these people to even come for your onboarding session was quite an enormous one, and also understanding the way or means to onboard these people in their various clusters, which is something I strongly believe in as compared to going after customers bit by bit. So it was quite an interesting one. Trying to deliver that in 21 days. We had times when a number of people had to stay back in the office up to late in the night, up until 12 a.m. and all of that, trying to crack the nut and all. So it was quite interesting. And also within that process, we also needed to hire as many people as possible to assist with onboarding, training, support, tech support, and things of that nature. So yeah, it was quite a mission impossible thing, but we actually did deliver within 18 days as compared to 21 days.
so what
So
I'm hearing are the usual issues that happen within projects, finishing on time and everything is one of the challenges. Yes, Bagala, you're saying something.
no, so I know he's talking in a general way, but as someone on the call, I'd be curious to know what his role entails on a daily as a product manager. Someone might think he sits and writes code, or he sits and becomes hands-on. So what does he do on a daily basis?
Okay, cool. Nice one. Yeah, so on a daily basis, my current role requires me to speak to multiple stakeholders. Stakeholders in this case are business unit leads. Try to understand what the existing challenges are. So ideally, we work in a very interesting space. We're in the commerce business and also fintech. That is, we do B2B commerce, selling product to businesses, and we also provide financing. In between that, we also offer delivery because you just don't buy from us. We also deliver. There's a logistics side to things. There's an inventory side to things. There's also the fintech side to things. There's also the loan recovery side of things as well. So you have lots of moving parts. So my role is at the moment, is just to align with all of these various business unit heads to understand what is quite important to them, what challenges they are facing, and also have that aligned with the internal products that we have that ensures seamless operation and all within the business, and also used by our various category of staffs to engage our customers. So take, for example, we have apps used by the loan recovery team. We have apps used by the team that onboard customers to get loans. We have teams that are also responsible for selling to some kind of customers. We have different category of customers. We have customers who are general customers. We have customers who are supermarkets, malls, and the likes. Yeah, so you just have it that way. So that's just my day-to-day thing. Have interactions with them, try to understand what challenges are there, try to align our various apps to help ensure that they meet their goals and objectives. And on regular basis, also visit the market, try to engage with our end last mile customers just to understand how things are. But yeah, but basically just a let me just say mediator across various business units and needs.
Interesting, because I'm going to mention some companies. I'll say Google, I'll say Facebook, I'll say Microsoft, and Amazon, right? When I say those companies, of course, everyone knows they're the biggest tech companies everyone knows about worldwide. I know you have affiliation somewhere in Microsoft, and I know most developers in Africa would love to work for such big companies. So my question to you is, paint for us a picture. How was it like working for Microsoft Azure? And I know you were the department of the Azure side of things. How was it like working on that product?
Yeah, so so my relationship with Microsoft is over, I think, over 9 years.
Wow.
Yeah, over 9 years. I think I've virtually met the various country managers that have been the country manager for Microsoft over here. I think I haven't really met the recent one. So it's been quite an interesting journey. I think what really sparked or initiated the relationship was when a couple of friends won the Microsoft Imagine Cup, which is a Microsoft Premier software program innovation software competition.
Sure, was that?
That has to be maybe 2011 or 2012.
11.
So they.
Well, I was still in primary school.
No. I remember the phones, the first smartphones. So no, I wasn't in primary school. But carry on, Priscilla.
Yeah. So yeah. So they won the West Africa region or something like that, and represented at the World Finals. I think they were in the first five or first three or thereabout, and then Microsoft decided that they were going to come to our university on a visit and also to host an event. So fortunately, luckily, I was part of the team that put together that event in 48 hours or thereabout, which the turnout was quite massive. And I think during the day of the event or thereabout, a number of people made some compliments and stuff. So I got introduced to the Microsoft team, then started out planning out activities on campus just to ensure that students were more involved in what was happening as related to software development, getting access to materials. So Microsoft used to give out some CDs then, which is called DreamSpark CDs. They had yeah, so they had DVDs. So they had virtually everything you need to start building software on that DVD. They had Visual Studio. They had a couple of videos, if I'm not mistaken, a bunch of drivers just for you to install. So we got a number of it. Microsoft hadn't officially started the student partner program in Nigeria then. So I think I was the first unofficial bunch of set of Microsoft student partner, distributing the CDs, hosting events, and a bunch of things. So that really started out my relationship with Microsoft. So ever since then, it's been from one engagement or one activity to another, from hosting over 50 events while in school, because every Sunday we usually host events after church or when people are done with church services and the likes. And then from then moved on to running communities once I left school and go back to Lagos. So it's been an interesting ride ever since then. So I think a bunch of times I've worked with some Microsoft teams to provide feedback regarding some products, regarding some stuff, things I can't really disclose much about. Um, yeah, so it's been
NDA
an interesting
problems.
ride. Right. So I just also answer one thing you mentioned for those who might want to be interested in working in Microsoft or thereabouts. I think I'll share a link later on. There was a recording we did where we had a bunch of a few hiring managers, two hiring managers or thereabout from Microsoft and also InterSwitch. We had an event, a virtual event last year. I shared the link on my LinkedIn yesterday or day before yesterday or thereabouts, where they demystified things that people need to prep for, things people need to look out for when
There's a
preparing for an
structures and
interview.
algorithms.
Yeah, not just that, and a bunch of other things. And also, Microsoft ADC has been doing a bunch of events online, just giving people insights on how to prepare for interviews and also going much more into just aside from interviews in terms of game development and a bunch of things. So yeah, so anybody who is interested in working on Microsoft could just check out careers.microsoft.com. Within the African continent, there is a serious increasing demand by Microsoft to hire software developers, game engineers, not content creators, curriculum and things of that. Also, product managers, senior product managers, designers, game designers, and a bunch of things in that order. So yeah.
Are you just aren't you making a case for people to leave their gig work and move to work for the big five companies?
Yeah, I was just responding to a question.
I
I
don't
was
know.
just
No,
responding.
no, that's fine. No, so I think it's interesting that you mentioned. We also see continuously that your career has evolved. So from working with Microsoft, from organizing events to building for Microsoft Azure. You mentioned Microsoft Teams, and I was like, hold on, Teams is a yesterday thing. Then I realized you're referring to the people. How do you think someone, and for someone that's tuned in and wants to evolve on their tech journey, um, what advice would you have for them?
Yeah, so straight up advice I would have for the person is, do you still keep wanting to do what you're doing now in the next 20 years? That's the starting point. There's always a starting point and also a process, and then also an end game to all of this. I think based on what people have as their career plans or thereabouts, it would determine what aspect of tech they want to go into. So you could have someone who is currently a software developer now who could say that, okay, maybe I'm bored of writing software on a daily basis. I want to move to a QA role to write automated tests, excuse me, and just things relating to that. There's that option. But for me, I think I just like sharing my own side of things and not give people a template. But however, people just need to answer questions themselves and then make their decision. I think for me, it was more of, do I still want to be writing production-based code in the next 10 to 15 years? I wasn't really sure about that. How do I feel I could optimize myself aside from knowing the skills that I have and all? So that was what really made me tilt towards product management. Because I know that, yes, I understand the tech. Even in most cases, I could sit in meetings and let developers bamboozle me or just use words and just behave like a dummy or thereabout, but that happens a lot. I understand the tech. I kind of have an idea of how the things work behind the hood. And then the business side of things is something I've been, should I say, I've been getting to know more and more about. From various standpoint of view, from the conventional mode of running a business to the startup culture to also the part of running sustainable businesses and the like. So I noticed that I had a bit of understanding in those parts or in those lines. And I was more passionate about using technology to make life easier or solving problems, be it life problems or business problems or meeting business objectives. So for me, the best I could decide to choose or work with was product management. And I also have a knack for UI, UX, UI to be precise. So yeah, so that really made me tilt towards product management. So for someone else, it might be okay, maybe they love design a lot or thereabout, they can move to being a UI UX person or whatever thing they just choose to do.
Someone stop talking. Are you
Yeah,
still continuing? Sorry, I thought you were still continuing. All right, that's very cool because I thought at some point that you had muted or something. All right, that's interesting, and I've noticed you giving us your experience, and every time you're talking about, you always point to the business side of things. I want you to help us take us back when you're still a young developer. For example, personally, I was known for forking code way back when I was still a developer. What mistakes have you done way back in your early days that people here can learn from? And how did you overcome these mistakes as a developer?
my number one mistake I can still remember very well is um, I don't know how to put this nicely, but I was more devoted to a particular technology stack than any other thing. I wasn't quite open to trying out other technology stack out there while I was still a full-time heavily invested in software development. I though it had its advantages as well because I could understand the depth and breadth of things. I got involved in a bit of driver development, what gave feedback to the engineering team behind the SQL, MySQL plugin when they initially started running WordPress on a Windows server thereabout. But so, which really got me into understanding how drivers work, how the Microsoft services work, how the Windows services work, and all of those, the worker roles and all. So I was just too focused on just one technology stack, which is technology stack, all from the various technologies that's from the ones that lived had a short lifespan to the ones that are still currently existing. I think right from 2008 or 2009, 2009, every single thing that was shipped from Microsoft's development team, any of the teams cross-functional from Bing APIs um, to I forgot the name from the Bing API to Microsoft Connect, from the Connect console, Connect development kit, um, Skype Dev, Skype API, Microsoft Link, Link for Business, Link for Business API, SDK, and a bunch of things. Those were the things I was focused on. I was religiously following up with every single piece of that. I didn't look at any other technology stack or thereabouts. So I was really quite vast in those. I didn't try out any other technology stack, not until a couple of years later before I started trying out some other things, looking at how they work, trying out my hands on Oracle. I think I tried my hands on Oracle 11G, 12G, or thereabout, and a bunch of databases. Tried out AWS, worked with AWS, worked with Lambadas, worked on DigitalOcean, worked in a bunch of other stuffs like that. I think I actually started out with C++, so I did a bunch of open source things, but easily got converted to just writing C Sharp and also looking at F Sharp as well, VB.NET. But I sticked with C Sharp for most of my development years. I wasn't more into front end, but I could work my way around front end. So yeah, so that was just my mistake. I wasn't explorative enough at the early days. It got so bad that when I got my first full-time serious job, I went to HR and I told HR, I said I interviewed as a software developer using .NET technology. Don't ever ask me to go write PHP or thereabout. I'm going to send you my resignation. And
Wow.
yeah, so
It's
that
the
was
it's
just
the
it.
guts for me.
At least he still says sharp.
It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, so that was actually what happened. I think the company really preferred me just doing .NET because there were projects where you had three, four people working on it, five people working on it before I joined. And I was later transferred to that project to single-handedly work on it, and which they were quite excited about that I was able to finish it. But yeah, so it's just my own mistake of being being monolithic. Let me use that word, being monolithic in my thought process or
Oh,
stuff.
it's interesting. All right. If we had sponsors, this is where we put in the ads, but we have no sponsors. So I'll go ahead with some housekeeping rules. All right. Everyone, we really thank everyone who has joined this Dev Hour. And please don't forget to put in your questions. I can see some are coming in. Thanks, David, for the questions. This will be responded to later on in our little chats. Apart from that, Viola, you can take it on.
No, I think for me, what I find interesting is that he's monolithic in one way, not in his career. It's
True,
just
true.
it's just in the technologies that he chooses to work with, which is also interesting. So no, Abisoye, you're actually not as tunnel vision as you may want us to believe. Um, Roger mentioned that you have the top five, the big five companies that yeah, so I don't know if it's your loyalty or not, but a small bad whispered in my ears that you actually turned down senior.net role at one of the big
Wow.
five. Um, I would kill for that moment right now. So,
Again,
what,
it's the
what,
guts for me.
like, other than your guts, right? What motivated you to actually turn down senior.net role from one of the big five tech firms?
Yeah, it was actually from AWS senior software engineer role outside of Africa. I won't mention the country, but uh, a number of Africans are dying to go to that country. So I was also offered a relocation package and all of that. So I think it was at a point of when I had finalized that I was just going to do product management. That opportunity came. So I was more of, why is it now that this is happening? I think I also feel like as that also came in, there was also another role. I don't think I shared this with anybody because a
Hmm.
bunch of people would be like, was I smoking weed or was something wrong with my head or something?
Well, we can't rule that out as well.
At this
So,
point, we can't.
Yeah, so I also got a senior software engineering role, senior software engineering role from a company based out of Germany, which is quite a very interesting offer, to be honest. But I think at that point, I'd already made up my mind that would, I just wanted to do product management. I enjoy what I do. Aside from that, I also enjoy teaching. Um, my philosophy has always been from development days is if I can't explain it, I shouldn't claim that I know it. If I can't explain it to a dummy, if I can't explain it to a kid, if I can't speak to a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old about something in tech, if I can't explain it, it doesn't make any sense at all to claim that I know it. So that has been something that how I the approach to things whenever I want to learn it. I may take my time to learn it and all of that, but once I learn it, I just enjoy teaching people and all. So yeah, for me, if I was just writing softwares or just doing software development, I might not really have that time to be able to teach or do a bunch of things that I love doing at the moment, related to communities, related to working with people and all of that. But yeah, for me, I don't regret it though. Till now, I don't regret making such decisions.
I think the conclusion is that you're high on something. It doesn't have to be weed. So, I think you've preempted my next question. It's that you've been a developer, you are a product manager, but also in your free time you run the .NET developer community in Lagos, and you are a pluralsight author. If the people that were on the call, I hinted that he's a jack of all trades and a master of many. So why education? Yes, you've hinted if I can't teach it to anyone, I'm the dummy here.
Yeah. So why
Yeah. Like
education?
why? What's your involvement with education? Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So education, training, and development. True. So I think for me, it's more about the excitement or the realization that people get once they grasp this thing. So let me paint the picture for you how things were like when I started our development. So I went to Federal University of Technology, Akure, and Futa, which is in Ondo State. At that point in time, while I was in school, you didn't have lots of people, students who were into software development. So I had the opportunity of having my own internet subscription in terms of subscribing to an internet service provider, being able to afford to pay the expensive fees, how expensive it was back then, and also being privileged to be in the circle of friends that were also nerds, and we went all the way in terms of going to our faculty to pass the night because there was usually light or electricity in our university and all of that. So we would go past the night in school or go to each other's houses, fuel the generator all through the night just to get resources, download, try out things later, learn it, fail a lot, try out stuff. Started getting projects while in school. So it gave us the opportunity to experiment and do lots of trials and errors. I had access to a bunch of Microsoft engineers who gave me direct training, direct mentorship, and all of that. And then on the other hand, I had a school community where not everybody had this kind of privilege, not even they didn't even have half of that kind of privilege, right? So it was something I saw as a need. I never monetized it. We never charged a dime from anybody to come for any of the meetups that we usually host then on a regular basis every Sunday or thereabout. So it was quite exciting to see people once they get this information, what they turn that information into. So most times after meetups, after events and things of that nature, you find a number of people quite excited, quite happy with what they've learned. We created a community where people could share their challenges. You had PhD students come for an event that is organized by a bloody undergraduate who is not even in computer science, who was in quantity survey, equivalent to cost engineering. And people come from all sorts. People came from outside of the university to come for events that we organized, and they were quite excited. And then after school, you seeing a number of people once you walk into an office or thereabouts point to you and say that, oh, that was the guy that gave me my first Visual Studio, or that was the guy that gave me resources relating to .NET, and which is why I'm working where I am today. There's several companies that I don't like going into, working into their buildings these days because I'm usually embarrassed with people like saying, oh, like greeting and saying all sorts of like all like great stuff like that. So yeah, so it's that has always been the motivation, seeing people being excited, having the tools or having the knowledge and having the expertise to do whatever they want to do. that changes their careers, changes their life, changes everything that they want to do, or being able to achieve what they want to do has always been the motivating factor for me.
Wow, that's really really interesting. Um, did I get you wrong? Or you said there are some companies you wouldn't like to work for?
So I don't like working into their building, that is going into their
Ah,
premises, because,
okay.
for example, there was a company that I think at least 10 of the senior software engineers usually attend the meetups that we used to host way back in school. So it's usually a case of reunion and just gisting and everybody getting distracted or thereabout, like and stuff. So yeah, so it's like one. I don't want to use
Big
the word
happy party,
a
one
star
big
or
family.
someone, yeah, that kind of thing. It's like one dude just walked into the, and
Yeah.
everybody would just be like, "Who's that dude? Who's that dude? Who's that? Oh,
Who's
that
this?
was yeah, that kind of thing." Yeah. So yeah.
All right, cool. We've reached the part of our Q&A, and allow me to butcher someone's name. Ovi, yeah, Ovi. Ovi's asking, does okay? Do top companies like Microsoft hire specialists in a particular programming language, or someone who has good command and knowledge of a major programming language or languages?
Yeah. So to the best of my knowledge, uh, if only it is specified on the JD, um, that's when they're hiring for a specific language or a specialist in a particular language. But mostly, the interview stages where you are doing a code sharing session or live coding, debugging or live coding sessions, they would ask you to pick your language of choice, or typically they could give you an option. But the truth from one of the videos that were recorded, as was being mentioned, is they're looking at your thought process, um, how you think about the problem, how you're trying to solve the problem. They're also looking out for you asking the right questions, for you to be able to deliver on it. So different, yeah. But basically, that's just it. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Viola.
There's another question.
Anonymous
Um, ab-
attendee.
Pardon?
There's an anonymous attendee who asked a question, apparently.
Yeah, I think that person may not want to be implicated. But yes, there's a anonymous attendee who asks, how do you transition from a developer to a manager?
Okay, so my own transition process was quite interesting. I was working in one of the telcos. I was seconded to one of the telecom companies, MTN, building something that cuts across the 13 countries or thereabout where they operate. And then a company reached out to me, that they needed, was I interested in, was I open to consideration of leaving where I was? I think a friend already reached out or so, or gave a recommendation. So I got reached out to, did the interview, and then that was how I became um, a CTO. The interview process was quite interesting, but before then, I already had a bit of interns, junior developers working with me on my team, where I was. So I can't really call that the start of me being moved to a manager. But I think when I moved to being a CTO, for me is what I can really say I became an engineering manager sort of thing. It was quite an interesting process. I had to learn how to manage people, how to work with people, how to have the personal touch and feel when you're managing people, because if things are not okay with them personally, they can bring their best self to work and they can deliver their best when it comes to work. So yeah, that's it. But I would advise that you start from where you are now in terms of learning the skills or what it takes to be a manager. That will help you a lot. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. I think we're having very many questions. We would
Yeah.
like to leave these for to be responded to in our Slack channel. I know, David, you asked a question to do with some advice to switch from a database to another. I know there's a question from, I don't like butchering names, but I'll try my best. Olutanji, I know you asked a question, but we shall get back to you with these questions in our Slack channel. But before
Yeah.
we
So
leave,
yeah. So
yes.
sorry, Roger. I think this questions. I think I can answer the
All right.
MSQL one in 1 minute.
All right. Cool. Can
Developed
answer
in
them.
a couple of languages, but I have more experience in ASP.NET. But when I look at availability opportunities, companies out so yeah, so this one regarding MSSQL ASP.NET, I tend to differ on it. You're asking, saying that you have more experience working with ASP.NET and Microsoft SQL database, but availability in terms of opportunities for companies is few. I tend to differ on that. If you're within Nigeria or within West Africa, I can authoritatively tell you that at least once a week, we get requests from companies to recommend developers to them. And I'm not talking of small companies, I'm talking of big companies. There's also a friend as well who usually gets requests from banks and the likes for ASP.NET developers and those who have experience with MS SQL. I think what you just need to do is you broaden your tentacles. The ASP.NET you're referring to, I don't know if you also understand ASP.NET MVC or Core. You also need to brush up on that. Those are the latest technologies. But yeah, so that's it. There are usually opportunities. If you check LinkedIn, if you check a bunch of other places, job boards, find them there.
Oh, all right. That's interesting.
So
Viola,
I
can you
think
tell
for
us
me
this one?
that's a cue for the person to reach out to
Correct.
Abisoye if they're looking for opportunities. Do you can drop your email or you could leave a message and Lynn could get you in touch, whichever works for you. I have a last interesting question of contention, especially in tech startups, right? There's always a decision on, do we need a chief product officer or do we need a chief technology officer or do we need a CPTO, someone who marries both? And it's something that I would like you to speak to.
Okay. Yeah. So to be honest, in startups, I've come to realize that the founders or the CEO are the chief product officer. Someone else might have that title or hold that post or thereabout, but that's just the blunt, honest truth. But going back to the question you asked, it depends. It also depends on the value the organization places on product management as it is. Product management, mostly in Africa, aside from a few big companies or thereabouts, is in some cases seen under the office or reports into the office of the CTO, which is not supposed to be. Ideally, you should have um, a team focused on engineering and then a team focused on product. That is a better way to it. But as the organization grows, so take for example, Google has a bunch of product managers. For the Google.com, that is their page, you have a PM that is responsible for search, right? Just that search feature, just you being able to type in something in that search bar. There's a PM, there's a product management team. I think the last I checked, maybe there are 3 or 5 responsible for things in that category. Then there's also a product team responsible for the Doodle, Google Doodle, what you see, the dynamic graphics or thereabout that you see, and all. And then there's a product team responsible for experience on the Google search results. So that is a Google kind of structure. But for startups or companies, small companies, as they grow, there will be a need to have product managers who are responsible for their features or their products just to be focused on it completely. One of the best structures that I've seen is an organization having squads where you have one product manager, one senior product manager has a squad. That is, they have a bunch of developers working with them, trying to get things done or thereabout. So that's one approach that I've seen that is quite interesting.
Wow, that's really good. And I think with that said, and the approach you told us, we need to close this dev hour off. It's been a really good pleasure. We've had a lot of knowledge. And Viola, the only way I'll know this dev hour is good for you, if I see transition in your life. Will you transit anything in your life?
No, I'll still be hosting the dev in 2 months' time.
2 months time.
Yeah, and that's the kind of transition. So no. But yes, it's definitely been a very informative session, and especially given that most of our devs are targeted to technical people. So to just have someone from the product space share their experience, share their transition, very insightful discussion from Falabi.
Correct. And Falabi, thank you for your time. Do you want to have any parting shots before we close off?
Yeah, just get things done.
True.
Guys,
get things done.
Yeah, if you want to change your career, get it done. No procrastination.
Correct.
Thank you all very much.
All right, thanks Falabi. Thanks my co-host Viola. Behind all the scenes, we had some DJs. We have user suspect. We had some DJs behind the scenes. We want to thank Esther, who has been very fundamental in all this. Esther, we thank you. I would also love to thank Lynn, who is quiet, whose face no one ever sees, the unseen one. And everyone has been able to participate. Otherwise, thanks everyone, and I wish you a nice day. Bye for now.
Cheers. Bye.